The existence of Allah, proven through the created universe. Introduction, the question that defines everything. Why? This question matters more than any other. There is one question that stands above every other question a human being can ask. It is not a question about history, or science, or politics, or personal success. It is a question about the very foundation of reality itself, a question whose answer determines the meaning of every other answer, the significance of every other truth, and the ultimate destination of every human life. That question is simply this: does Allah exist? And linked to it, inseparably, is the question that this essay takes as its primary subject. Was the universe created by Allah, or did it arise by chance and accident? These two questions are, in reality, one single question seen from two different angles. If the universe was created, if it was brought into existence by an act of will and intelligence, then a creator exists, and that creator is Allah. If the universe arose by chance, if it appeared from nowhere, for no reason, and organized itself into its extraordinary current state, without guidance or intention, then there is no creator. And human life has no ultimate meaning beyond whatever temporary purpose individuals invent for themselves. The stakes of this question could not be higher. Everything that matters most to human beings, meaning, justice, love, hope, morality, the significance of suffering, the reality of beauty, depends on which answer is true. This essay is a comprehensive, 8-dimensional analysis of this question, written to be understood by every person in the world, regardless of their educational background, cultural context, or prior familiarity with the subject. It uses the tools of science to examine what the natural world tells us about its own origin. It uses analogy to make abstract arguments vivid and accessible. It uses spiritual intelligence to connect rational conclusions to the living experience of the human soul. It draws on Islamic spirituality to explore the deepest teachings about the relationship between the Creator and the created universe. It applies the full rigor of Islamic intellectual tradition to the rational proof of the necessary existent. It employs the most powerful arguments of philosophy to establish that the accidental universe is not merely improbable but incoherent. It uses formal logic to build a step-by-step demonstration that cannot be refuted, and it synthesizes all 8 dimensions into a single, unified, and irresistibly powerful conclusion. The structure of this essay is a continuous journey, from not merely in the alphabetical labeling of its arguments, but in the deeper sense that every section builds directly on the one that before it, deepening the argument, enriching the understanding, and adding new layers of evidence and insight. The introduction establishes the question and its stakes. Each analytical section adds a new dimension of proof. The conclusion draws every thread together into the final, luminous answer. By the last paragraph, the reader will have encountered the existence of Allah, demonstrated from 8 independent directions, and will have seen all 8 converge, with the force of 1,000 rivers reaching the sea, on the same undeniable truth. A note on language: this essay uses only English words throughout. The name Allah is used as the name of the Creator, the one, eternal, all-knowing, all-powerful, self-sufficient being who brought the universe into existence and sustains it at every moment. The use of this name reflects the Islamic understanding that the Creator is personal, that he has a name, and that his name is a recognition of his reality, rather than merely a generic label for a philosophical concept. With this foundation in place, the journey begins. Section 1. Scientific dimension: what the universe reveals about its own creation. Science discovers the moment of beginning. The most important scientific discovery of the 20th century, arguably, of all human history, is that the universe had a beginning. For most of recorded history, many thinkers assumed the universe was eternal, stretching infinitely backward and forward in time with no origin and no end. This assumption was philosophically convenient for those who wished to avoid the question of where the universe came from. But the discoveries of modern physics and cosmology have demolished this assumption with extraordinary precision. In 1929, the astronomer Edwin Hubble confirmed that the universe is expanding, that galaxies are moving apart from each other in every direction. This discovery has a profound implication. If you run the expansion backward in time, like rewinding a film, all matter and energy converge on a single point of origin. A moment when the entire universe was compressed into an inconceivably small, hot, dense state before which there was no matter, no energy, no space, and no time. This moment, called the Big Bang, is not merely the beginning of the physical contents of the universe. It is the beginning of space itself. It is the beginning of time itself. Before this moment, there was absolutely nothing physical. The universe came into existence from nothing. And a universe that comes into existence from nothing requires, with absolute logical necessity, a cause that is itself outside the universe, outside space, outside time, outside matter, and outside energy. 3 independent lines of scientific evidence confirm the Big Bang with extraordinary precision. The expansion of the universe traced backward converges on a single origin point 13.8 billion years ago. The cosmic microwave background radiation, a faint uniform glow of heat energy filling the entire observable universe, is the precisely predicted afterglow of the hot, dense early universe detected in 1964 and measured with extraordinary accuracy ever since. The observed abundance of light elements, hydrogen, helium, and lithium in the universe, matches predictions of nuclear processes. In the universe's first 3 minutes to within a fraction of a percent, 3 methodologies, 3 independent measurements. 1 conclusion: the universe began. It was not eternal. Its beginning demands a creator. Fine-tuning the universe was calibrated for life beyond the fact of the universe's beginning. Science has revealed a second extraordinary dimension of the created universe, the fine-tuning of its fundamental physical constants. The physical constants of the universe, the strength of gravity, the strength of the electromagnetic force, the masses of fundamental particles, the cosmological constant, and approximately 30 others determine how the universe operates at every level. What science has discovered is that each of these constants is calibrated with a precision so extraordinary that any significant variation in any of them would produce a universe incapable of sustaining any form of ordered complexity, let alone life. The cosmological constant, the energy density of empty space, is fine-tuned to within 1 part in 10 to the power of 120. The gravitational constant is fine-tuned to within 1 part in 10 to the power of 60. The nuclear forces governing how protons and neutrons bind together are calibrated, so that carbon, the fundamental building block of all known life, can form inside stars through a process that requires 2 independent nuclear resonances to be precisely aligned. Every constant, in every domain of physics, is set at precisely the value needed for a universe capable of producing stars, planets, chemistry, and life. The physicist Paul Davies wrote that the more carefully we examine the universe, the more it seems to have been set up for a specific purpose. This is not a religious statement, it is a scientific observation, and the only adequate explanation for a universe fine-tuned with this level of precision is a supremely intelligent designer who set the parameters with a specific outcome in mind. That designer is Allah. Biological information. Life requires an author. The third scientific pillar is the origin of biological information. Every living organism carries within its cells a molecule called DNA, a long chain of chemical letters encoding complete instructions for building, operating, and reproducing that organism. The human genome contains approximately 3 billion of these letters, organized with a specificity that encodes every protein, every cellular process, and every developmental stage of a human life. This information is not merely complex, it is specified. Every section performs a precise function, organized exactly as needed to produce a living system. Information of this kind, complex, specified, purposively organized, has only ever been observed in the entire history of human experience and scientific investigation. To arise from one source, an intelligent mind. No experiment has ever demonstrated the spontaneous generation of specified biological information from non-living chemistry. The information in DNA points, with scientific precision, to an intelligent author, a mind of supreme intelligence who designed the code of life and embedded it in the first living cell. That author is Allah. Science, in its greatest discoveries, has not moved away from the reality of a creator. It has moved toward it with the precision of measurement, confirming what the deepest human intuitions have always known. Section 2. Analogical dimension. Understanding creation through familiar experience. Why analogy opens doors that abstract argument cannot. When reality is too vast or too fundamental to grasp through direct observation alone, the human mind reaches for analogy, a pattern from familiar experience that mirrors the unfamiliar pattern in reality and allows understanding. To bridge the gap, analogy is not merely a literary technique. It is a genuine cognitive instrument that human beings of all cultures use every day to understand complex realities through comparison with simpler, more familiar ones. In this section, we use 5 powerful analogies to illuminate what the created universe tells us about the existence of Allah. The analogy of the masterwork. Consider any great masterwork of human creation, a cathedral, a symphony, a mathematical proof, or a precision instrument of extraordinary complexity. Each of these shares properties we immediately recognize as the signatures of a creating mind. Purposive organization, where every part serves the whole. Specified complexity, where the arrangement is specifically ordered to achieve a particular outcome. Internal coherence, where every element is consistent with every other. And beauty, where the form reflects something that transcends mere utility. We never look at a cathedral and wonder whether it assembled itself from falling stones. The properties of the masterwork declare its maker. The universe possesses all these properties to a degree that infinitely exceeds any human masterwork. Its purposive organization spans every level, from nuclear forces to galactic dynamics. Its specified complexity is demonstrated by the fine-tuning of constants. Its internal coherence is shown by a single set of mathematical laws governing all of physical reality. In its beauty, galaxies, organisms, mathematics. Love goes far beyond any functional requirement. Speaking of a creator whose inner nature is beauty itself, the universe is the supreme masterwork. Every masterwork declares its maker. The maker of the universe is Allah. The analogy of the letter and the answered question, imagine receiving a letter that answers, with perfect precision, every question you have about your life, your purpose, your origin, your destination. The letter addresses you personally, knows your history, speaks to your suffering, and guides you toward your highest potential. You would immediately know that someone who knows you deeply wrote it. The existence of the letter is proof of the existence of its author, an author who knows you, cares for you, and reached out specifically to you. The universe is precisely this kind of letter. It is configured at every level of its physical structure. For beings of exactly the human kind, beings who need oxygen, liquid water, a stable star, a planet of the right size, and a cosmos that has been producing the elements of life for billions of years. The universe does not merely permit human existence, it embraces it, supports it, and speaks to it through beauty, order, and the deep sense of meaning that every honest soul has felt in moments of genuine attention. The universe is addressed to humanity, and every letter addressed to a recipient was written by an author who knows that recipient. The author who wrote the universe for human beings is Allah. The analogy of the blueprint and the building. No building has ever been built without a blueprint. The blueprint does not physically construct the building, it carries the information, the intention, and the design that guide the construction process. Without the blueprint, the materials, bricks, steel, glass, concrete, remain a random pile. With the blueprint, they become a structure of purposive order that serves the human beings who will inhabit it. The relationship between the blueprint and the building illustrates the relationship between the mind of Allah and the physical universe. The laws of physics are the blueprint of the universe. They carry the information, the structure, and the organization that guide the behavior of every particle in existence. But laws of physics are not physical things. They cannot be touched, weighed, or measured directly. They are mathematical structures, abstract patterns of organization that exist independently of the matter they govern. Where do abstract mathematical laws of nature come from? Not from random physical processes. Random processes do not produce precise mathematical laws. They come from the mind of the Creator who designed the universe according to the mathematical principles He knows eternally. The laws of nature are the blueprint. The universe is the building. Allah is the architect. The analogy of the clock and the clockmaker. Imagine finding a perfectly functioning mechanical clock in an empty field. Its gears mesh precisely. Its spring stores and releases energy with perfect timing, and its hands move at exactly the right rate to track the passage of time. You would not conclude that metal and springs accidentally assembled themselves into this precise configuration by a random natural process. The precision and purpose of the mechanism declare, with unmistakable clarity, the presence of a clockmaker. The more precise and purposive the mechanism, the more certain the inference to an intelligent maker. The universe is a clock of incomparably greater precision and purposiveness. Its mechanisms, the forces of nature, the constants of physics, the laws of chemistry and biology operate with a precision that makes the finest human timepiece look crude. And the purpose they serve, the production and sustaining of conscious, aware, loving, seeking beings who can know their Creator, is infinitely more significant than the measurement of time. The precision and purpose of the cosmic mechanism declare the existence of a cosmic clockmaker of supreme intelligence. That clockmaker is Allah. Section 3. Spiritual Intelligence, Dimension, the soul's direct perception of Allah. What is spiritual intelligence? Spiritual intelligence is the human capacity to perceive sacred meaning, divine presence, and ultimate significance in experience to recognize, beyond the surface of physical events, a deeper reality that gives those events their ultimate meaning. It is not opposed to rational intelligence. It is a different mode of knowing that complements reason and goes beyond it. In the same way that the experience of love goes beyond the biological description of neurochemical processes. Both the scientific description and the direct experience of love are real, but the experience is deeper, more intimate, and more personally transformative than any description of it. Every human being possesses spiritual intelligence in some degree. It is activated when, in a quiet moment, you sense that your life has a meaning that goes beyond your daily routine. It speaks when you face death, your own or a loved one's, and feel, with absolute certainty, that something of profound importance is happening that no purely biological account can fully capture. It stirs when you stand before the ocean or beneath a starlit sky, or in the first moments after a child is born, and feel the weight of something infinite pressing, gently but unmistakably, against the boundaries of your finite self. Spiritual intelligence is the eye of the soul, and when it is open and clear, it reads the universe as the most eloquent testimony to its Creator that exists. When the universe is perceived through the lens of spiritual intelligence rather than the lens of purely detached observation, its character is transformed. The expanding universe is not merely a cosmological fact. It is a sign of a Creator whose creative power is actively sustaining and unfolding reality at every moment. The fine-tuned physical constants are not merely interesting numbers, they are the evidence of a care so precise and so personal that it speaks of a Creator who knew before the universe began exactly what kind of beings would inhabit it, and exactly what conditions they would need to flourish. The information in DNA is not merely a biochemical puzzle, it is a love letter written in the language of molecules. Authored by a being who cared enough about the creatures he was making to equip every cell of every one of them with the complete instructions for their own existence. Spiritual intelligence does not replace rational analysis, it completes it. The rational analysis establishes that the universe was created. Spiritual intelligence perceives what that creation means, that it was not a mechanical or indifferent act, but an act of love, care, and intention by a being who knows every soul within the universe. He made, and who placed signs of his presence in every dimension of reality, so that no honest seeking soul would ever be left without a path back to its maker. The universe is not merely a philosophical argument for the existence of Allah. It is the living presence of Allah's creative love, perceived by every soul that has the honesty and openness to receive it. The universal witness every soul already knows. Islamic spirituality teaches that every human soul carries within its deepest nature an original, pre-worldly awareness of Allah. Before this world began, every soul stood in the presence of Allah and bore witness to His reality. This original witness is the most fundamental fact about the human soul, more fundamental than any cultural conditioning, any learned belief, or any philosophical conclusion. It is the reason why, across every culture, every continent, and every era of human history, human beings have worshipped. Not one human civilization has ever been discovered that practiced no form of acknowledgement of a reality greater than the human. This universal impulse toward the sacred is not explained by sociological or evolutionary accounts. It is explained by the original witness of the soul. When a human being encounters the scientific evidence for the created universe, the Big Bang, the fine-tuning, the biological information, and follows it honestly to its conclusion, the experience is not that of learning something new. It is that of remembering something ancient. The soul recognizes the conclusion before the argument finishes. It says yes, not as a new acceptance, but as a reclaiming of something it already knew. Spiritual intelligence is the faculty through which this recognition occurs, and the existence of this faculty, the universal human capacity to recognize Allah through the signs of the created universe, is itself one of the most powerful spiritual proofs that the Creator exists, and that every soul was made to know Him. Section 4. Islamic spirituality dimension: the universe as Allah's living communication. The universe as a sacred text. Islamic spirituality teaches that the natural world is not a neutral backdrop to human existence. It is a sacred text, a cosmic book written by Allah in the language of existence, addressed to every human soul that has ever lived. Every feature of the natural world, from the largest galaxy to the smallest particle, is a sign, a deliberate communication from the Creator to the creation, each one speaking in the language appropriate to its form about the reality, power, wisdom, beauty, and care of Allah. The sunrise speaks of faithfulness, the Creator who keeps His promises and renews the world each morning without fail. The rain speaks of generosity, the Creator who sends life from above to a dry earth that cannot produce it alone. The cycle of birth, growth, death, and renewal speaks of sovereignty, the Creator who holds the power of life and death in His hands and exercises it with wisdom and care. These signs are not merely metaphors invented by human religious imagination. They are real communications built into the structure of the natural world by the Creator who designed every feature of that world, with the human soul's capacity for perception and understanding in mind. The universe is a letter written in signs, and every sign is addressed directly to the soul that has the spiritual sensitivity to read it. Islamic spirituality teaches that the deepening of spiritual sensitivity through prayer, through honest self-examination, through gratitude, through the regular remembrance of Allah, is the most important work a human being can undertake, because it is the work of learning to read the universe for what it truly is, the most magnificent and personal communication ever sent. The purified heart as the instrument of cosmic perception. Islamic spirituality locates the primary organ of spiritual perception in the heart, not the physical heart, but the spiritual heart that is the innermost center of human consciousness and awareness. The spiritual heart, in its natural state, is a perfectly clear mirror, capable of reflecting the reality of Allah with perfect fidelity, just as a perfectly polished mirror reflects light with perfect clarity. But over the course of a human life, this mirror becomes clouded by accumulated layers of ego, distraction, worldly attachment, and moral failure, each layer reducing the heart's capacity to perceive the signs of Allah in the world and in the soul. Islamic spirituality prescribes specific practices for the purification of the spiritual heart. Sincere prayer performed with genuine presence and attention. Honest self-examination that acknowledges shortcomings without excusing them. The cultivation of gratitude that shifts the soul's attention from what it lacks to what it has been given. And the regular remembrance of Allah that keeps the soul oriented toward its Maker throughout the daily flow of life. Each of these practices removes a layer of obscuration from the heart's mirror, restoring its capacity to perceive the reality of Allah in the universe He created. A fully purified heart does not need a philosophical argument to be convinced that the universe was created by Allah. It sees this truth directly, as clearly and as certainly as the eye sees the sun on a cloudless day, not as a conclusion laboriously arrived at, but as the most immediate and undeniable fact of its experience. The created universe as an act of love. One of the most beautiful teachings of Islamic spirituality about the created universe is that it is, at its deepest level, an act of love. Allah did not create the universe out of need. He is self-sufficient and complete in himself. He did not create it out of loneliness. He is infinitely beyond all need of company. He created it as an act of generosity and love, a giving of existence to what was not, a sharing of being with the possible, a making room in a reality for the existence of beings who could know, appreciate, and return to their Maker. The universe is the most generous act imaginable, the act of bringing an entire cosmos into existence, calibrated with extraordinary precision for the beings who would inhabit it, filled with beauty that goes far beyond any functional requirement and embedded with signs at every level that guide the seeking soul back to its source. This understanding transforms the experience of living in the universe. Every breath is a gift from Allah, who sustains the atmosphere that makes breathing possible. Every meal is a gift from Allah, who sustains the food chain that makes nourishment possible. Every moment of beauty is a gift from Allah, who made the human capacity for aesthetic experience and filled the universe with things that satisfy it. Every experience of love, between parent and child, between friends, between human beings and the natural world, is a reflection of the love of Allah, the original and infinite love from which all creaturely love derives its power and its beauty. The created universe is not a cold mechanism. It is a warm and generous gift from a creator whose love for the beings he made is the ultimate explanation for why it exists at all. Section 5. Islamic Intellect and Intelligence. Dimension Reason arrives at Allah, the intellectual demand for a necessary existent. Islamic intellectual tradition has for more than 1,000 years developed one of the most rigorous and comprehensive bodies of rational theology in human history. At its foundation is the proof from contingency, the recognition that the universe, and everything in it, exists contingently rather than necessarily, and that contingent existence demands a necessary cause. A contingent being is one whose existence depends on causes outside itself, one that exists but did not have to exist, and could, in principle, have been different or not existed at all. Every object in the universe is contingent, every particle, every star, every galaxy, every living organism. The universe as a whole, being composed entirely of contingent things, is itself contingent. The explanation for the universe's existence cannot itself be contingent because a contingent explanation merely relocates the need for an explanation without satisfying it. The chain of contingent explanations cannot stretch infinitely backward because a completed infinite series of past events is logically impossible. As we will establish in the logical section, the chain must therefore terminate in something that exists. Necessarily something whose existence is not derived from any prior cause. Something that simply is, by its own nature, with absolute self-sufficiency. Islamic intellectual tradition calls this being the necessary existent. It exists in every possible scenario. It is impossible for it not to exist. And the necessary existent, as Islamic intellectual tradition demonstrates through careful analysis, is Allah, the attributes that the necessary existent must possess, having established that a necessary existent must exist. Islamic intellectual tradition proceeds to derive, through careful rational analysis, the attributes this being must possess. It must be eternal, because if it had a beginning, it would be contingent, and we have established it is not. It must be self-sufficient, because anything on which it depends would be more fundamental, contradicting its status as the ultimate cause. It must be omnipotent, because it produced the entire physical universe from nothing. It must be omniscient, because the fine-tuning of the universe to extraordinary precision requires foreknowledge of the conditions necessary for the desired outcome. It must be one, because two equally ultimate beings would produce a universe of competing principles. But the universe we observe is governed by a single, unified, consistent set of mathematical laws. And it must be personal, because a non-personal timeless cause would produce effects, if any, uniformly and timelessly, not at a specific moment of beginning with specific parameter choices. These attributes, eternal, self-sufficient, omnipotent, omniscient, singular, and personal, are precisely the attributes that Islamic tradition attributes to Allah. The rational theology of Islamic intellectual tradition does not merely prove that something powerful exists beyond the universe. It proves, through the analysis of what the cause of the created universe must be, that this being has the specific attributes of Allah. The intellectual proof and the spiritual knowledge arrive at exactly the same being by completely different routes, converging with the certainty that only truth can produce. The mathematical universe and the mind of Allah. Islamic intelligence, the active disciplined, curious application of the human mind to the observable evidence of the natural world, reveals one of the most profound and least discussed proofs for the existence of Allah through the created universe, the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics. The universe is governed by mathematical laws of extraordinary elegance. These laws were not invented by the scientists who discovered them, they were found to already be there. already governing physical reality, already structured in ways that human mathematics could recognize and describe with extraordinary precision. The equations of general relativity, quantum mechanics, electromagnetism, and thermodynamics all were developed as abstract mathematical structures before they were found to describe physical reality with measurements accurate to many decimal places. Why should abstract mathematics, developed by human minds with no reference to the physical world, correspond so precisely to the structure of physical reality? This question, called by the physicist Eugene Wigner the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics in the natural sciences, has no answer within any purely materialist account of reality. But Islamic intelligence gives a clear and profound answer. The universe and the mathematics that describes it share the same ultimate origin in the mind of Allah, who thinks the mathematical laws of nature eternally and whose thinking of them is expressed in the mathematical structure of the universe he created. The mathematical order of the created universe is the signature of the mathematical mind of the Creator. That Creator is Allah. Section 6. Philosophical Dimension. The deepest arguments for the existence of Allah. Philosophy and the search for the deepest truth. Philosophy is the disciplined human pursuit of the deepest truth about reality, the kind of truth that underlies and explains every other truth. The existence of Allah, proven through the created universe, is the most fundamental philosophical truth available to the human mind, the truth on which all other truths ultimately depend for their meaning and significance. In this section, we present 4 philosophical proofs for the existence of Allah through the created universe, each approaching the same truth from a different angle of philosophical inquiry. The proof from sufficient reason, the principle of sufficient reason, the principle that every fact has a complete and adequate explanation, is the operating assumption of all rational inquiry. We never accept that something simply happened for no reason at all. We always look for the reason, the cause, the explanation. This principle is so fundamental that abandoning it would make understanding anything at all impossible. Applied to the existence of the universe exists. By the principle, there must be a sufficient reason for this fact. That reason cannot come from within the universe. A contingent thing cannot be its own sufficient reason without circularity. It cannot be an infinite regress. An infinite regress relocates the need for a reason at every step without ever satisfying it. The only sufficient reason for the universe's existence is a being that exists, necessarily whose existence is self-explanatory because existence is simply what it is. That being is Allah. The proof from mathematical truth and consciousness. Mathematical truths are eternal, necessary, and entirely independent of the physical world. They were true before any human being existed to think them, would be true if no physical universe existed, and will be true regardless of the future. They are not made of matter, do not exist in space or time, and cannot be detected by any physical instrument. Yet they are real, more certain, in many ways, than any physical fact. Where do eternal, necessary, mind-independent, mathematical truths exist? The most coherent philosophical answer is that they exist in an eternal, necessary mind, the mind of Allah, who thinks them eternally and in whom they are grounded. The same argument applies to consciousness, the fact that there is something it is like to be you, that you have inner subjective experience. Consciousness is the most undeniable fact in existence. You cannot deny it without performing an act of consciousness. Yet it has no explanation within any purely physical account of reality. Physical processes have no inner dimension. The most coherent explanation for the existence of consciousness in the universe is that the universe was created by a being who is himself supremely conscious, whose consciousness is the ground and source of all conscious experience within his creation. Mathematical truth points to an eternal mathematical mind. Consciousness points to a supremely conscious creator. Both point to Allah. The proof from objective morality: human beings universally recognize that some things are genuinely right and some things are genuinely wrong, not merely as cultural preferences, but as objective moral facts that hold regardless of what any individual or society believes. The torture of an innocent child for entertainment is not wrong merely because people dislike it. It is objectively, absolutely, unconditionally wrong. Wrong in a way that makes no reference to anyone's opinion. This universal recognition of objective moral reality is one of the most striking features of human existence. Objective morality cannot be explained by any purely physical or evolutionary account of reality. Natural selection produces behavioral tendencies, not moral facts. The laws of physics generate no moral obligations. If human beings are purely physical creatures in a purposeless universe, there are no objective moral facts, only evolutionary habits and cultural conventions with no binding authority. The existence of genuine objective morality requires a foundation in a being whose nature is perfectly good and whose commands create real moral obligations. That being, the source of the moral law written into every human conscience, is Allah. The universe whose creator is Allah is a moral universe in which right and wrong are as real as matter and energy. Section 7. Logical Dimension, the formal proof that cannot be refuted. Logic as the final court of rational inquiry. Logic is the science of valid reasoning, the discipline that ensures that when we move from premises to conclusions, we do so without error, fallacy, or contradiction. A valid logical argument with true premises produces a conclusion that must be accepted by any rational mind, regardless of personal preference or cultural conditioning. In this section we construct the formal logical proof for the existence of Allah through the created universe, a proof that is not merely persuasive but logically necessary. The core logical argument. The argument has 3 steps. First, premise. Everything that begins to exist has a cause outside itself. This is the most universally confirmed principle in all of rational inquiry and human experience. Nothing, in the entire history of human observation, has ever been observed to begin existing without a cause. This is not merely an empirical generalization. It follows from the nature of causality itself. For a thing to begin existing, it must be brought from non-existence to existence by something that already has the power to produce it. Non-existence has no power. A thing that does not yet exist cannot cause its own coming into existence. Second premise. The universe began to exist. This is established by 3 independent lines of scientific evidence as detailed in Section 1. The expansion of the universe traced backward to a single origin point, the cosmic microwave background radiation, as the precise afterglow of the early universe and the observed abundance of light elements matching Big Bang nucleosynthesis predictions. Third step. The conclusion follows with logical necessity. The universe has a cause outside itself. This cause is outside space, outside time, outside matter, and outside energy. Because it produced all of these things. It must be uncaused, because if it had a cause, that cause would require a cause, leading either to an infinite regress or to another uncaused cause. It must be eternal, it must be omnipotent, it must be supremely intelligent, and it must be personal because a non-personal, timeless, unchanging cause would not produce a temporal effect at a specific moment without the exercise of will. Will requires a personal agent. The cause of the universe is a personal agent of unlimited power, eternal existence, and supreme intelligence. This being is Allah. The logical impossibility of the infinite regress. A common attempt to avoid the conclusion of a creator is to claim that the universe is explained by an infinite series of prior causes stretching backward forever with no first cause. This hypothesis fails on logical grounds. An actual infinite series of past events is logically impossible. To reach the present moment, an infinite number of prior events would have to have been completed. But an infinite series cannot be completed. Infinity, by its very definition, is that which cannot be exhausted or completed. If you must cross an infinite number of points to reach your destination, you never arrive. If an infinite number of past moments had to be traversed to reach the present moment could never have been reached. But we are in the present moment. Therefore, the past is not infinite. It had a beginning, and the beginning requires a cause that is itself outside the series. That cause is Allah. The logical refutation of the accidental universe. The accidental universe hypothesis, the claim that the universe arose by chance, without a creator, takes several forms, each of which fails on logical grounds. The claim that the universe came from nothing without a cause violates the first premise of our argument, which is the most universally confirmed principle in all of rational inquiry. True nothingness, no matter, no energy, no space, no time, no laws, has no properties and no power to produce anything. From true nothingness, nothing can come. The claim that the universe is itself the necessary existent fails because the universe is clearly contingent. Its physical constants could have been different, its initial conditions could have been otherwise, and its beginning establishes that it is not self-sufficient. The multiverse hypothesis that our fine-tuned universe is one of infinitely many, randomly varying universes does not eliminate the need for a creator. It creates the need to explain the multiverse generating mechanism, which faces the same questions at a higher level. Every escape route of the accidental universe hypothesis is logically closed. There is no coherent alternative to a creator. The logical attributes of the creator confirm the logical analysis of the created universe arrives at a creator with specific logically derived attributes: uncaused, eternal, omnipotent, omniscient, personal, and singular. These attributes follow necessarily from the logical analysis of what the cause of a contingent, finite, precisely calibrated universe must be. They precisely and completely match the attributes that Islamic tradition attributes to Allah. The logical analysis does not discover a vague creative principle or an impersonal cosmic force. It discovers a being who is personally, specifically, and completely consistent with the description of Allah, the one eternal, all-knowing, all-powerful, self-sufficient creator who brought the universe into existence by his will and sustains it at every moment by his power. Section 8. Multidimensional synthesis. All dimensions converge on one truth, the power of convergence. We have now traveled through 7 distinct dimensions of human knowledge and inquiry, and the most remarkable fact of this journey is not any single argument within any single dimension. It is the convergence. Science establishes that the universe began, that its constants are fine-tuned to extraordinary precision, and that its living systems carry information that only intelligence can author. Analogy shows that the universe shares, with every product of human intelligence and artistry, the signatures that we universally recognize as the marks of a creating mind. Spiritual intelligence reveals that the human soul is equipped with a faculty that perceives the existence of Allah directly, and that this faculty, when open and awake, experiences the created universe as the living presence of its maker. Islamic spirituality reveals that the universe is a love letter from Allah to humanity, filled with signs, calibrated with care, and sustained at every moment by a creator who knows every soul within it. Islamic intellectual tradition proves that the chain of contingent causes must terminate in a necessary existent who is eternal, self-sufficient, omnipotent, omniscient, singular, and personal. Philosophy proves that sufficient reason, mathematical truth, consciousness, and objective morality all demand the existence of Allah, and logic proves, step by irrefutable step, that the universe has a cause with the specific attributes of Allah and that every alternative is logically untenable. 8 independent dimensions, 8 independent approaches. 1. Conclusion. The universe was created by Allah, the convergence of 8 completely independent lines of inquiry on the same specific conclusion is itself one of the most powerful of all the proofs for its truth. In science, when multiple independent experiments using different methodologies all confirm the same result, that result is considered established beyond reasonable doubt. The existence of Allah, proven through the created universe across 8 independent dimensions of human knowledge, is established with a degree of convergent support that exceeds any conclusion in the history of science or philosophy. Conclusion. The universe has spoken, and the answer is Allah. From proof to presence, the final word. We began this essay with the most important question a human being can ask. Does Allah exist? And we took as our primary method of answering it the statement that the title announces. The universe is created, not by chance or accident. We have now demonstrated this statement from every available dimension of human knowledge: scientific, analogical, spiritual intelligence, Islamic spirituality, Islamic intellectual, philosophical, logical, and their unified synthesis. At every stage of the journey, the same truth emerged with increasing clarity, depth, and force. The universe was not an accident. It was created, and its creator is Allah. The scientific dimension showed that the universe had a beginning, requiring a cause outside itself, that its physical constants are fine-tuned to extraordinary precision, requiring a supremely intelligent designer, and that its biological information requires an intelligent author. The analogical dimension showed that the universe shares with every masterwork, every letter, every blueprint, and every precision instrument, the properties that universally declare an intelligent maker. The spiritual intelligence dimension showed that the human soul is constitutionally equipped to perceive the existence of Allah through the created universe, and that this perception feels not like new information, but like ancient recognition. The Islamic spirituality dimension showed that the universe is Allah's living communication to every soul, a love letter written in the language of creation, sustaining its recipients with generosity and beauty that goes far beyond any functional requirement. The Islamic intellectual dimension proved that the chain of contingent causes must terminate in a necessary existent, who is eternal, self-sufficient, omnipotent, omniscient, singular, and personal, and that these attributes precisely match the attributes of Allah. The philosophical dimension showed that sufficient reason, mathematical truth, consciousness, and objective morality all converge on the existence of Allah as their only coherent foundation, and the logical dimension constructed a formal proof of irrefutable validity, demolished every alternative, and arrived at a creator whose attributes are identical to those of Allah. But the proof is not the destination. The proof is the beginning. Every dimension of evidence we have examined points beyond itself, beyond rational conclusion, to a living reality, the reality of Allah, who is not merely the logical terminus of a chain of argument, but the living presence behind every sign in the created universe, the intimate knowledge behind every cell and every living body, the love behind every act of generosity in the natural world, and the patient, infinite mercy, waiting at the end of every honest human journey of seeking. To know that the universe was created is to stand at the threshold of the most important relationship available to any human being, the relationship between the human soul and Allah, its creator, sustainer, and ultimate destination. The universe that science has mapped, that analogy has illuminated, that spiritual intelligence has felt, that Islamic spirituality has read as a sacred text, that Islamic intellect has proven by reason, that philosophy has established as the only coherent account of reality, and that logic has confirmed as a necessary conclusion. This universe is not a cold mechanism indifferent to the beings within it. It is a home, prepared with extraordinary care for beings who were created to know their Maker, love their Maker, and return to their Maker. Every star that burns in the night sky was burning before the first human eye opened to see it, and it will burn after the last human eye closes, and it burns because Allah sustains it, because Allah set the nuclear forces within it at precisely the right strength. Because Allah calibrated the mass of the proton and the strength of gravity and the value of the cosmological constant so that stars like this one could form and burn and forge the elements of life and scatter them into space to become the bodies of conscious beings who could look up and wonder and seek and find. The universe has spoken, at every level, in every language, through every dimension of human knowledge, from the beginning of time to this present moment. It has spoken the same word again and again, in science and in spirit, in reason and in feeling, in the mathematics of physics and in the yearning of the human heart. That word is the answer to the question with which we began. That word is Allah.